Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, June 9th. Oh, no, wait. Let's start over. It's not Wednesday. It is Monday. We're going to start over. Yeah, y'all, I landed last night like at midnight. So, there you go. A little bit of grace for myself. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, June 9th, 2025. It is so good to see you this beautiful Monday morning here in Austin, Texas. Like I said, flew in really late last night from the beautiful city of LA. And I'm sure y'all have been keeping up with the news on what's going on with LA, but I was there over the weekend. And I'm telling you, there's nothing like California weather. Oh my goodness. California weather is just the best of the absolute best. But it is so good to be here this beautiful Monday morning. Lots to go over this morning. Excited to go over the new listing and pending ratio along with all of the other market indicators so that we know exactly what is going on within the entire Austin market. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start filling out that new listing and pending ratio. I'm excited to see what is going on with inventory and what's going on with new listings entering the market. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to update some of the historical information. Take a look at what happened from May 26th all the way through June 2nd when it comes to pending transactions so that we can update all of the previous. Then we're going to take a look at how many open houses over the past 7 days and whatnot. From the 26th to the 2nd, when you look at pending properties, this number is going to go up from 434 to 437. That's going to put the ratio at a 0.66. To put that in perspective, what that means is that out of 1,000 properties entering the market, 660 or so have been absorbed by the market. When the ratio is under 1, that means that inventory is increasing. When the ratio is under that 0.7, between 0.6 and 0.7, we see a tangible increase in inventory. When the ratio is under 0.6, we see a substantial increase in inventory. So here's the good news. Take a look at the past 3 weeks. We went from 0.62 to 0.63 to 0.66. That's good. Now we're still in the tangible plus increase in inventory. New listings, active listings are still going up, but the rate of increase is slowing down a little bit. I'll take any good news. That is good news. The fact that the ratio has improved from a 0.62 to a 0.66 over the past 4 weeks, I will take that as good news. Very good news. Let's take a look at open house. How many open houses have been held over the past week? And we're going to go from the 2nd to the 9th, and that number is going to be, open house is going to be, 3,631. A little bit more than the previous week. Now we can start updating the number of new listings entering the market. Keep in mind, you all, this is going to be for the 6-county area, Travis, Williamson, Bastrop, Hayes, Caldwell, and Burnett counties. This is going to be from the 2nd to the 9th. And so far today, the number of new listings. What do you think, you all? More or less than the previous week at 12:01? Keep in mind, it's only 10:05, so we're going to get additional new listings that are going to come on the market between now and 11:59 p.m. tonight. So what do you think? More or less than, okay, so we've got 2 lesses. We are already at 12:52. We've already beaten last week by 51 listings, and we still have 13 hours and 55 minutes left in the day, which means we're going to get about another 100 or so listings added to this. That's going to put us around that 1350, which is going to beat the previous 2 weeks. Let's take a look at how many price increases. We're at 192. So that also beats, we have to go all the way back to April 28th through May 5th to get more price increases. So that's up also. So we've got an increase in active listings, new listings, increase in new, increase in price increase. And what about price decrease? Increase in price decrease. So overall, we're looking at just high activity this past week across the board. Let's take a look at back on the market. We're at 198. That didn't beat last week. 16% back on the market. That goes down over the past 2 weeks. Now let's take a look at active under contract. Okay, not bad. 432 active under contract. By the way, you see Excel did an upgrade and they added that ridiculous, okay, hide. Perfect. I can't stand. I don't need to use Copilot for every single cell that I'm updating. Hide it until next time you open it. Why can't I just hide it forever? It drives me crazy. Now, this is where you get to guess. Last week, 437 pendings. Keep in mind that when we update the pending information, it's a little bit less than what the final number is, but y'all have been doing this for a while now. This is where you get to guess. Let's go ahead and get 5 guesses on how many pendings over the past 7 days from June 2nd all the way through June 9th. And Harold is going to start us off with 270. Harold, okay, good stuff. 1 down, 4 to go. Let's go ahead and just get 4 more guesses going. 1 down, 4 to go. We've got 257, 288. Charmaine coming in at a bullish 288. Sonia very close to Harold's 270. Sonia 257. Seth coming in at a slightly bearish 252. Daniel at a bullish 292. I believe we do have our 5 guesses. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. We need one more guess, you all. We're a 4 down, 1 to go. One more person, go ahead and just type it, and I can read out the number. We always need 5 guesses before we reveal the actual number. Okay, I have 5. Okay, good stuff. Can't count today. We have 5 guesses. Let's go ahead and get the pending count. All right, here's the good news. Everyone started with a 2, so you are right on that. So we start with the 2. The next number is a 0. The next number is a 9. 209. 209 pendings. Time for coffee. Let's drink some coffee here. We're starting off at a 0.44 ratio. Here we were bragging on the good news that we went from a 0.62 to a 0.66, and then we're hit with this dreadful number of 209. Starting off the day with a 0.44. That means that we're going to be closer to that 0.62 to 0.63 when this is all said and done. When we revisit this number in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to be right around there. We might not even crack 0.6. Remember how we had a 0.58 here back in April? April 7th through April 14th, 0.58. Looks like we've got a little bit of a repeat right there at that 0.44. Very, very chilly number right there. Not exactly what we wanted to see, but it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. Already, week over week, we're up 4 listings. Let's take a look at the... Okay, this is year over year, so not week over week, but year over year. Year over year, we're already up by 4, up 0.3. We're down by 51 on price increases. We're up by 189 year over year. Same exact week last year, we have 189 more price drops, and we have 51 less price increases this past week compared to the same week last year. We have 45 less back on the market. We have 151 less active under contract, 328 less pending. Here's one thing that's really interesting. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, and we have 2,271 less pendings this year than last year. We only had 2 weeks where pendings were higher than last year, and that was March 24th all the way through April 7th. But it was really just slightly higher. That was only higher by a total of 55 combined. And you can see that since the beginning of the year, we have not been keeping pace with last year. Last year's ratio for the week, same week last year, 0.75, and that was going down. Take a look at that. That was 0.807675. Let me make this just a little bit bigger for you all. That's probably easier to see. And then here we've got a 0.44. Let's go ahead and update the monthly. Let me go ahead and delete some of these numbers right here so we can update it. This is from last week's update. So let's go ahead and just start updating the monthly information. First thing I want to do though is I want to go backwards in time a little bit. This is going to go up to 1934. I'm also going to update the sold later on, but let's start updating the active information, new listing. And we have for the entire month of June so far, from the 1st until right now immediately, we've got 1322. Price increase, we're at 194. Price drop so far this month, we're only 9 days into the month, we're at 23.95, 93%. That matches the previous week at 93%, which is the highest since July of last year at 94%. Let's take a look at back on the market. We're at 203 back on the market. Active under contract, we're at 490. And pending so far this month, we're at 242. Ooh, wow. Let's take a look at withdrawn and expired. It's a separate screen for me to do the sold. 278 on withdrawn. On expired, we're at 101. Now let's go ahead and update the sold information. I have to go to a separate screen for the sold information, so give me 1 second. Sold, we're at 505, and let's go backwards in time and update the sold information for last month. We're at 3008, and let's even go back to April, see if we have to update April. We're at 2595, so we're good on that. So far this month, only 9 days into the month, we're at a 0.48 ratio for the entire month. 0.48 ratio. Wow. Interesting, huh? Very interesting. So, what are your thoughts? What are y'all thinking? Let's do a little bit of brainstorming here together as a team. What are your thoughts? Anyone want to share? What are your thoughts? Now, I'll say this. I'm very encouraged for the team, because I certainly am seeing an increase in activity on our side of things. But keep in mind, I think that's why we adopted a mindset of, hey, we're going to get our unfair share. And you take a look at the number of pending properties so far this entire year, if you exclude June, because it's too early, we're averaging about 3,800 pending properties. So there's business out there. Why do we update this ratio, and why should we be mindful of this ratio? You can't apply this ratio to your personal book of business. What you cannot do is look at this ratio and say, oh, that means that my book of business is going to struggle. You can never do that. That's not the whole point of the ratio. Why do we put this together? Why do we review this? What do you do? What do you use this ratio for? Let's get a few people to share. Why do we go over this information? It's not meant to apply it to your personal business. It's meant to equip you to have conversations with your clients. So how do you equip your clients with this information? How are you all using this ratio? Go for it.
This is Erin. It's my number one favorite leading indicator on the market.
Okay, tell us more.
Well, I love to describe to them and people understand it. I like to show them what it was back in 2021 so that they comprehend what the ratio really means and compare today's number to that. And then look back in history, like during the 2008 crash and the .com crash, and show them how that ratio compares to those times, because people don't remember the numbers, right? They just remember, oh gosh, real estate crashed. It was horrible.
Yeah. They remember the feeling, but they don't associate the feeling with a valid statistical number that we're now seeing again.
Right.
Okay. And are your clients understanding that? Are they reacting to that? Are they adapting their strategies based on that?
Sometimes the level-headed, logical ones adopt it
Okay.
and adapt to it, but the ones that, are personally in a really tough spot are they tend to be in denial about it,
Yeah.
and I have to keep taking them back to the comparison as well as the days on market for their specific neighborhood.
Very good point. Well, I like the fact that, Aaron, and thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. I love the fact that you use the word in denial because, I'm very active on X. We post on X all the time. We get really good traffic that comes into our website by posting on X. And it is interesting the private messages that I receive, the direct messages, or the comments that I will receive, and it seems like it's the two complete extremes, right? So you've got, one set, and I even received a message that said, Austin will never recover. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Ridiculous. Doom and gloom. It's never going to recover. It's the next Detroit, which, by the way, is recovering. And then you get another set of people that are like, I don't believe the numbers. The house down the street from mine sold over list price last week. And both of those are wrong. It's like, okay, yes, the house down the street sold over list. Okay, that's one house. Like, we're talking about the macroeconomic landscape of the Austin real estate market. And how does the pulse of the entire market look like? And then, of course, we have to drill down to the city, the municipality, the zip code, the school district, the neighborhood, the street, and then the individual property. And overall, the macro level is slowing down. There's no doubt about that. We are reaching record high number of active listings. We're going to go over that shortly. And we have to understand that. And then we have to drill down to the city, the zip code, the school district, the neighborhood, the individual property, and then make a decision on, does this macro data apply to this individual home? Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. So that's why we go over the information. But both of those people are wrong. The person that says Austin will not recover, that's wrong. I remember hearing that back in 2010. Homes are going to be worth $50,000. Nonsense. And then, of course, I remember back in 2010 where I would go for a listing presentation. I'm like, there's no way. Like, the house will never sell with this price. Well, I think it's going to recover. There is a buyer out there for this property that's going to love it as much as I do. No, there isn't. No, it does not. And the property is not going to price. It's not worth this much. So sometimes data will help, but when someone is absolutely delusional, and then the data won't help. They've made their decision and they're just going to move forward with that decision. Let's take a look at a few other metrics that we need to be aware of. And before we do that, actually, let's take a look at the pending side of things really quick, or the leasing side of things really quick, so we can see what's happening with the ratio on leasing. Because you can notice that on the leasing side of things, we are starting off the month at a 0.47. Last month, we ended at a 0.70, and it was 0.72 a year ago. So we are noticing a pretty dramatic increase in inventory on the leasing side of things also, which is providing pressure within the rent price for homes. And we just went over on Friday. Take a look at the Friday meeting where Austin is leading the nation on the percentage rent drop year over year. And we are noticing a pretty dramatic increase in inventory on the leasing side of things. So keep in mind that all of the resources, or most of the resources that we have on the sales side, we also have it on the leasing side. You just go to Insight Statistics, you click on leasing, Insight and Statistics, leasing statistics, and you're going to be able to get the market cycle, active inventory. All of that information is available on the leasing side of things. So, with the ratio being down, what do you think is happening with active residential inventory? What are your thoughts? Do you think we reached a record high on active inventory? What are your thoughts? Let's take a look at it. We're going to click on active residential inventory. Let me make this just a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and download this information so I can cover my entire screen so that you can see absolutely everything. And it'll be a lot easier for you to actually look at the data and see the data. Let me just adjust this just a little bit so that you can see. And there we have it. Perfect. We are at 17,541 active listings as of this morning. That is a 213 increase from Friday, 247 from a week ago, 925 month over month. That's going to be a 5.57% increase month over month, 18.3% increase year over year. It's going to match the Friday. And take a look at the pending. We only added 4 pendings from Friday. From Friday to today, we only added 4 pendings. We added 213 active, but only 4 pendings. That's going to put the activity index at 21%, and that's going to put months of inventory at 6.25. Take a look at the active listing. We're up 18.3. This same day last year, we had 14,823 active listings this day last year. Right now, 17,541. To put that in perspective, over the past year, right, because this is same day last year, we've increased the inventory at a higher amount than the entire inventory back in, look at this, back in 2022. Let that sink in. In 1 month, we added more inventory, or in 1 year, we added more inventory than the entire inventory back in April of 2022. That is a shocking number. Really amazing. Let's take a look at the activity index. 17.64% activity index on resale. 30.36% activity index in new construction. So when you look at the activity index of 21% for everything, you've got to be focused on the resale. We're now under 18% activity index on resale. We've got 44 short sale. That activity index is super healthy at 32%. Except for third-party approval at 10%, all of the special listing condition has really nice activity index. People are absorbing that product really well, except for the third-party approval. Here's the activity index along with months of inventory. We just reached a record high months of inventory, 6.25. We are heading towards a buyer's market. I'm going to show you that shortly. And then when you take a look at the activity index, we just hit a low. We just hit a multi-year low on the activity index. We're now lower than we were last year, any moment last year. Take a look at pending. That had a big drop. We now have a 3.2% gap on the number of pending properties from last year to this year. Activity index, we are under 2024, under 2023 on the activity index. That's going to be a multi-year low on the activity index. Months of inventory, that reached a new record high of 6.25. And when I say record high on activity index, like we have to go back a long time to get a higher number on activity index, like a really, really, quite a bit. So let's keep on going here. We've got active listings, 17,541. There's the Active listings pending 4664, and you can see active. Take a look at how steep of a line this is, especially when we start towards the first week of March. That line just really goes straight up, whereas last year, if we draw a line same period, it not as pronounced as this year. This year, we've got way steeper of a line on the number of active listings currently on the market. And we did reach a record high. The previous record high was Friday, May 30th. And that was at 17,377. We're at 17,541. So we did break the previous record high that was set back in May 30th. Last year, the record high was 15,503, and that was set July 15th. So we have another month or so of listings being added to the market. When you go back here, back in 2022, the record high, we reached that back in last week of October. Then when you look at 2023, that was also last week of October. And then when you look at this past year, that was right there in the middle of July. And we don't know when we're going to reach a record high this year. What do y'all think? When do you think we're going to reach a record high this year? Do you think it's going to be July? Do you think it's going to be into October, November? What are your thoughts? Write it down over chat. Feel free to unmute yourself. When do you think we're going to reach a record high this year on the number of active listings? And then it's going to start tapering off. You think it's going to be the matching 2 years ago, October, or do you think it's going to match last year, July, or somewhere in between? Charmine's going to start us off somewhere in between August, September timeframe. Violet is saying, okay, sooner rather than later, so probably closer to the July timeframe, maybe within a month or so. I sure hope it's not October, November, because that means that we're going to hit 20,000 active listings. Okay, October, Leah's saying October, could very well happen in a July. Well, y'all, that's why we go over this information on a weekly basis. And keep in mind, this information is updated on a daily basis. Out of all of the active listings currently on the market, 53.4% of those have had a price drop. In the city with the highest price drop is going to be Driftwood at 65.2, followed by Liberty Hill at 62%. 62% of all of the 484 active listings in Liberty Hill have had a price drop. And when you look at this breakdown, look at Georgetown. Georgetown has 1,317 active listings. That is a huge number. You look at Liberty Hill, 484, Leander, 800, Hutto, 329. That's not that bad. Kyle, 544. Georgetown, that is a huge number for Georgetown. 1,317 active listings in Georgetown. That is just amazing. When you take a look at the activity index in months of inventory, of course, you know this. As the number goes down, these dots go up. Activity index is going to be your leading market indicator, whereas months of inventory is going to be your lagging market indicator. So as this chart always goes in this direction. Remember back in the day, all these numbers were down here. You had low months of inventory because you had high activity index. Right now you've got low activity index. That's going to push the lagging indicator months of inventory up. That's going to be for the top 30 cities. And here you've got the top 75 zip codes that we track. The average of everything now is over 6 and really close, very close to that 20% activity index when you look at absolutely everything that's on the market. Let's take a look at a few more things, a few other stats that we can look at. And what shall we choose to take a look at? Let's take a look at sales density. What are we expecting when it comes to closing? The forecast for the number of closed properties this year, it's going to be a low forecast based on what the MLS is reporting here 9 days into the month, but we are forecasting a pretty substantial drop on the number of sold properties. And we can do this with a fairly high degree of confidence because we also track pendings. So if pendings are down 15%, 10% last year or last month, that means it's not going to close. So we go back 45 days, we take a look at the number of pending properties, the drop on the number of pending properties. How long does it take for a property to go from the time it goes pending to closed? What's that length of time? We break out resale, we break out new construction, and then we take a look at how many properties sold so far this month, and we apply all of those metrics to a forecast. That's why we're off by oftentimes 3 to 5% on our forecast. And right now, I mean, keep in mind, this time last month, we were forecasting 3,000 sold properties for May. Came in at 2,997. That's going to go up a little bit because you still have agents that are reporting sold, but it's going to be very close to that 3,000. So when you apply all of these forecasting tools to June, right around 2,300 sold. That's what the number, it just spits out this number when you apply everything. We've been using that forecasting formula for years, and it's been very accurate. So that's what we're expecting right now on the number of closed properties in June. That's going to put the cumulative sold properties from January all the way through June still 4.1% above average, not adjusted for population, but 10.1% drop year over year. Our forecast, including the forecast for the month of June, the cumulative number of sold properties, January through June, you add everything, 14,362. We have to go all the way back to 2013 to get a number that's really anywhere close to that. But one thing that we do is we adjust it for population because we had way less people back in 2013 than we have now. And when we adjust it for population, that number goes down by quite a bit. That drops by 12.2%. That's going to give us 564. That's going to be a little bit less than 2011, and the only time frame that's going to beat 2025 is going to be 2009 at 550 cumulative sold properties per 100,000 people. But we are noticing a pretty dramatic drop on the number of sold properties when you adjust it for population. Now, let's adjust it for the number of realtors. And for the number of realtors, very similar. We do have a 6.2% drop year over year. That's why I'm so incredibly proud of you all and the transactions that I'm reviewing and the work that you're doing, because we are certainly not on this trend at all. And I'm very grateful for that. But we're looking at 773 sold properties per 1,000 realtors. That's going to be a 27.1% drop based on the average, less than the 25-year average, a 6.2% drop year over year. And we slightly beat 2009 at 765 sold properties per 1,000 realtors. That's going to be your sold report. Let's go ahead and look at a few other reports. And what I want to do now is take a look at the percentile analysis. Let's scroll down a little bit and find the percentile analysis, because part of that analysis is your high end versus low end. This is going to be your top 25th percentile versus your bottom 25th percentile. Let me download this, and we still have what we've been calling a bifurcated market that is still going on, but not as much, not as pronounced as it used to be. And this is what I mean by this. So this is going to track the top 25th percentile versus the bottom 25th percentile. And you can see that the drop on the number of sold properties, we take a snapshot. Give me everything that's sold over the past 30 days. Identify the top 25th percentile, identify the bottom 25th percentile, and let's look at that price. So where does the price stop at that bottom 25th percentile? Where does that price start at the top 25th percentile? And we compare it year over year. And we can see that the bottom 25th percentile on price, it's down 4.4%. On the top 25th percentile, it's down 2.3%. So the top 25th percentile continues to outperform the bottom 25th percentile, both on price and on price per foot. But look at the difference on the price per foot. It's only off by 0.1%. It's down 3.7% on the price per foot on the bottom 25th percentile, down 3.6%. Anytime you see a red dot on the top 25th percentile, that means that the top 25th percentile is underperforming the bottom 25th percentile. And that's going to be a guarantee, especially if you see two red dots, both on the price and the price per foot. That's a guarantee that prices are going to go down. That's a guarantee that the market has not bottomed out in that specific city and then in that specific zip code, and that prices will continue to go down. So use this resource when you're sitting down for a listing presentation, analyzing a zip code, analyzing a municipality. Now, in contrast, you take a look at 78738. I can tell you right now, prices are going to continue to go up because the top 25th percentile is dramatically outperforming the bottom 25th percentile. You have an increase on the number of sold properties. And especially if you have something that everything is up, it's a guarantee that prices are going to go up. But you've got an increase on the number of sold properties. And on the 78736, let's do this one. You've got an increase on the price, decrease on the price per foot, but then you also have an increase, a higher increase on the top 25th percentile. A little bit lower on the bottom on this price per foot on the top 25th percentile. Now, some of these numbers are interesting. Take a look at 4.1. Sales on 4.1 and 3.9. Sales on 3.9 are just down by a lot. 51.7% drop in sales. On the 78739, that is just crazy. Take a look at 5.1. Oh, 5.1 prices are going to go down. I'll tell you right now it's going to go down. We've got a 52.9% drop on the number of sold properties year over year past 30 days. And then you've got an increase in price on the bottom 25th percentile, but the top 25th percentile collapsing. So what do you think is going to happen with the 78751? It's going to go down. It's going to continue to go down. And then you click on that link, it's going to show you the activity index, but look at months of inventory, 9.6. I promise you prices are going to go down in that zip code. How do I find this chart regarding percentile? All you have to do is you go to Insight and Statistics, you scroll down. When you reach price data, you click on percentile analysis. This percentile analysis has everything. It's 34 pages, but I broke that down further. If all you want to do is the high versus low end, I've got a separate link right there. You click on high versus low end, and that's going to focus only on this top 25th percentile versus bottom 25th percentile. Wasn't 5.1 super hot 2 months ago? 5.1 was doing fairly well 2 months ago. Let's take a look at the activity index for zip code, and let's take a look at the 12-month trend for 5.1 so we can see what happened 2 months ago in that 78751 zip code. Here we've got 78751, and we have to go back to February to get a 23.9. 5.0 was doing very well. 5.0 was at 36.5% activity index in February. That right there collapsed down to 16.5%. But the 5.1 zip code, down a little bit. We're actually outperforming last year on the activity index, but not on sales. But we are outperforming on the activity index, which is really interesting. Well, while we're at the activity index, Manchac reached a record high. Let's take a look at record low, record high. We've got 0.5, that's going to be a 12-month low, 1.7, only at a 20.7% activity index. That is crazy. The activity index in the 1.7, that's going to be your Avery Ranch area, that was at 40% in November. You've got half of that amount. That just hit a record low. So your buyers are going to have a lot more options within the Avery Ranch market. 2.3, that's a 12-month low. We've got, wow, take a look at 3.5. 3.5 just collapsed. We were at 31.8% activity index in October, 30.9, very healthy market. That's going to put us right around the 3 months of inventory, 3 to 4 months of inventory. And then all of a sudden, we dropped to 11.7. Now we're only at 9.3 activity index. Oh my goodness. Okay, interesting. 3.5. 3.5 is a really interesting case of what's happening. Now, that is going to be, a higher end zip code. Right, you're looking at what's the average price in 3.9, right around $1 million or so. Let me go to market update, and we were focusing on, was it 3.9 or 3.5? I'm going to click on access, and I'm going to go to 78735. I just want the entire report. Give me everything. 3.5 is interesting. Really low activity index, 9.3. Inventory holding steady, but we know lagging indicator. What do you think is going to happen with months of inventory next month? Because nothing is pending. There's not a thing pending in the 78735. Super high price, 1.9 million average, $935,000 median. What do you think is going to happen with months of inventory? It's going to shoot up. As a matter of fact, you can see here that months of inventory from November to now, that's up 500%. As the leading indicator, the activity index is going down, and then it just collapsed. So what's going to happen? Months of inventory in the next 30 to 60 days is going to shoot up to the 7-8 months of inventory. Now, take a look at the number of active listings. You've got 68 active listings currently on the market. And now take a look at the activity index per price range, per zip code, or per square footage and price range. Here, every time you see this red with a symbol, meaning there's no pending. There's not a single pending property. So you've got 100% activity index, meaning everything that could be pending is pending. And then you've got one at 20, one at 25, one at 50, and then nothing else is going on. Then it's just dead across the board. Really interesting. Can you look at 3.0? Yeah, let's take a look at 3.0. We're going to go back here. We're going to click on 78730. And let's pull up all of the data in 78730. Keep in mind, you all this information is updated. I need to make sure that this is updated for actually today's. That should be updated for today. Give me 1 second right here. That should have actually been automatically updated for this morning. But I can log into my separate computer right here and run that little script. And let's see if we can get this updated. It's just going to take about 3 minutes or so. But let's take a look at the report from Friday. But this script is running. It's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes for that script to run and update everything. But you can take a look at the 78730 low activity index. That's also dropping. Little bit of a drop on months of inventory. That's simply the reason why is because we had a drop on the number of active listings because of withdrawns and expireds. And of course, the months of inventory is going to drop whenever you have a drop on the number of active listings currently in the market. And here's the inventory. Most of it is over that 1.2 million. And look at that activity index. You don't have a lot going on. Got really low activity index across the board. So some properties, the ones that 16 to 1850, 100%. You've got 3350 to 3600, between 7 and 800, 100%. 3.5 has a few very different neighborhoods. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Very, very different neighborhoods. So there's the 78730 right there. Oh, you wanted 3.5? Okay, we got 3.0 and 3.5. We got multiple conversations going on. But yeah, take a look at that resource. Take a look at that information. And really, really interesting. Okay, so this information is updating right here. It's just going to take about 30 seconds or so for this to be updated. And you can go ahead and just click on that 3.0 and you will see the update on that. Let's go back to team price. Let's take a look at a few more stats. It is 10:47 a.m. We're going to talk about rates here really quick, see what's going on with rates. But let's take a look at, we looked at activity index. Let's take a look at type of market zip code really quick. Let's take a look at type of market zip code. Make this just a little bit bigger. And as of now, we're looking at 45% of these 75 zip codes that we track still in a seller's market. 20 in a neutral market. That's going to be 27%, and 21 in a buyer's market. Let's take a look at the zip codes that are right at the edge of going from a seller's market or a neutral market to a seller's market, buyer's market, over to a neutral market. We've got this line graph right here that's just going to plot everything and show us which zip codes are about to transition over. We have the 78602 Bastrop, very close to a buyer's market, and then 78753. These other ones are going to take a while, but let's take a look at the ones that are very close to transitioning over to a neutral market. We've got the 5.4, 5.7, 5.6. So that whole area, 78754, 78757, 78756, all of these transitioning over to a neutral market. Really, really interesting. I want to remind you all, I just did my update. So now when you go to the data and analysis, take a look at that. It now has the updated information for today. And there you have it. So last revised on June 9th. So that was just pushed out to the website. We just did this right now. So now you've got the latest and greatest on that. Now, what do you think is happening with pricing? It is on the beginning part of the month. So what do you think is happening with pricing right now? You think prices so far this month are going up or going down? What are your thoughts? It is on the very, very beginning part of the month. And yeah, prices, of course, are going up, mainly because that top 25th percentile is outperforming the bottom 25th percentile. So month over month, it does show us that prices are going up, but we have to go back to May and keep in mind that when we started updating May in the first week of May, prices were up like $45,000 month over month. And now it only up by 2,412. Year over year went negative, but look at the median. The median price last month in May down by $786. And year over year down by 9,005. So far for the month of June, we're up 19,000, but that number is going to go down. As more properties close, we do expect that number to go down. That's why we go over this information on a daily basis, or we update this information on a daily basis so that you can have access to all of this information. Now, another thing that we do is we take a look, and let's go back to percentile analysis, because the last page on percentile analysis has the past 30 days compared to exactly the same 30-day period a year ago. And this is the resource that I use. Let me go ahead and just download this really quick. This is the resource that I use for the weekly market stats, where we just take a 30-day period, we compare it to exactly the same period 30 days ago. And let's take a look at what's happening with pricing when you look at exactly the same 30-day period. And we are down on the average active. We're down 3,196. On the median active, we're down 2,777. Average sold, we're now down 1%. Median sold, we're down 1.55. City of Austin, we're up on the active average. The average active, we're up $21,000 year over year. And that's going to be an increase of 2.72%. Average sold, an increase of 1.4%, but the median active is down 4%. The median sold is down 4.34%. So this is going to be your update using just a 30-day chunk of time when you compare this past 30 days compared to exactly 30 days ago. Let's take a look at rates. What's going on with rates? And we are at 6.875. We were at 6.75 on Wednesday and Thursday. But Thursday was a really, really bad day for the bond market. You can look behind me right there. And so far, we are actually down 2.5 basis points today. But we had a brutal week last week when you look at the bond market. Yields continue to go up. And I sure hope there's a little bit of a reprieve when it comes to that. As of now, doesn't really look like that's going to be the case. It does look like we are in a heightened rate environment, but let's take a look at the economic calendar, see what we can expect. A lot of commodity data coming out today. We've got some employment figures. Let's look at the entire week to see what we can expect. We've got small business optimism. That's going to be out tomorrow. Big one, big week. We've got CPI, also known as inflation. Consumer Price Index, also known as inflation, that's going to be out on Wednesday, which means we're going to have PPI, Producer Price Index. That's going to be the input cost to the producer. And then on Friday, we've got more information. University of Michigan, consumer sentiment, consumer expectation, current conditions, inflation expectation. All of that is going to be out on Friday. So it's going to be a very important week when it comes to rates. If for some reason on Wednesday we see inflation numbers go up, get ready for 7%. Just saying, get ready for 7% rates. We'll hit 7% all day long. So we are hoping that it'll either meet expectation, and their expectation is that inflation is going to go up from the previous reading. Previous reading on CPI, core CPI was 0.2. They're expecting a 0.3. If it comes either at expectation, best case scenario comes in below expectation. But if for some reason it comes above expectation, even by a fraction, we're 7%. 7% all day long. So it's going to be a very important week. Of course, I will post this within our internal Facebook group so that you can see exactly what's going on. And it is 10:55 a.m. Any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, or complaints regarding the data, what's going on in the market, what's happening with everything? Let's take a look really quick on the market update. We are, when you look at the entire MLS, we are at 6.4 months of inventory. For the actual month of June, we have to go all the way back to 2011 to get a 6.7 month of inventory reading, but we're currently at 6.4. We're going to end the month higher than 6.6. I would say we're going to end the month just based on what is selling right now and the rate of new listings entering the market that are not going pending. I would not be surprised if by the end of the month, we didn't end right around that 6.7, 6.8 months of inventory. I would not be surprised. That's what I'm expecting. And then crossing into the 7-month inventory mark by July or August. But as of now, there is nothing that's being reported that would dissuade me from making a prediction of a official buyer's market in the next 45 days. We will officially be in a buyer's market as an entire market. Right now, we're still in a neutral market heading towards a buyer's market. We use 7 months of inventory as that buyer's market line because that is a true buyer's market. I don't view 6 months of inventory as a buyer's market, even though that tends to be industry standards. I don't agree with that, so I'm going to make up my own definition. I say it's 7 months, not 6 months. I think 6 months is nonsense. But we are heading towards that. I would say 45 days. In the next 45 days, we will be in a buyer's market, especially because inventory, the number of active listings, it has not peaked yet. In the new listing to pending ratio, we are backtracking. We're actually slowing down on the new listing to pending ratio for the month. We are down year over year on the number of pending properties, and we are up dramatically on the number of new listings entering the market and therefore the number of active listings currently in the market. So that's going to be my prediction. 45 days from now, we're going to be within the next 45 days, we'll officially be in a buyer's market. The last time we were in a buyer's market was October of 2010. So I would say that a vast majority of agents, certainly I can only speak for Team Price, but a vast majority of agents have never experienced this type of market. Out of Team Price, I believe there are only like 5 agents that have experienced this type of market. The rest, hey, this is new. This is new for a vast majority of agents in the Austin area. So the more you are personally equipped with this data, being able to articulate what's happening, we're always going to be truthful with the data. We're always going to call it exactly like it is, because I am convinced that with truth, you are empowered. This is the market. It is what it is. You can have the absolute best year of your career in any market, but you've got to know what the market, you've got to know, do you have a tailwind? Do you have a headwind? What's going on here? What do I have to work with? That's why we go over this information faithfully and consistently. Any other questions, you all? For those who are doing articles, by the way to go. You're doing a really good job with the articles. So I know there's a few Team Price agents that have kind of taken that mantle and said, hey, I'm going to be doing articles. We've been really consistent on publishing articles, and the results are nothing short of spectacular what's happening with our site. Just let me give you a really quick website update. Over the past 12 months, we're looking at 3.13 million impressions. And some of the top impressions that we're looking at, when you look at compare 3 months year over year, look what's drawing traffic to the website. Austin real estate market forecast, Austin real estate market forecast 2025, Austin housing market predictions, Austin housing market. We also have some affidavit questions right there. But when you look at Austin real estate market 2025, we've got a lot of articles that Google is really enjoying, and it's really working out really well. Let me see if I can Google one of these terms. Let me go ahead and just Google this term. Oh, there you go. I just Googled Austin real estate forecast 2025. And look at that. We've got Team Price, and then we've got Culture Map, then we've got K-View. But most of these links are going to be Team Price number 1, Team Price number 2. We've got Team Price number 1, Team price number 2, oh, really fantastic. Team price number 1, continue growth in sales. That's K-View. So really fantastic, really exciting what's happening with our website. So way to go, team. Now, one thing that I did notice, let me see if I can, I did a screenshot of something that I saw on, I don't know that I can grab that screenshot from this computer. Got like 3 computers right here, but it was like Austin market prediction. And there were 2 predictions, one from ABOR or something, and then one from Team Price. And it was so crazy because the ABOR prediction is like Austin market stabilizes, prices are going to grow. And then our article was like sales expected to decline. And it was like an article from January. Well, let's put it this way. One of the articles was right. But it's also like, what is someone more than likely to click on, right? They're going to click on like, okay, wow, what's going on? Yeah, they're not going to click on stuff that they just know it's not going on. So the website's doing extremely well. Really happy with this. So way to go, everyone. For those who are doing articles using AI to help craft and generate the articles, you're doing an absolutely great job. And you're driving traffic to your own personal subdomain. Hopefully they are searching for properties there. They're viewing you as that trusted advisor. I'm certainly cranking out a bunch of articles because the reality is this. I knew that people were going to search Austin housing forecasts, what's happening with the market. I knew they were going to be searching. These are the questions that I am targeting. Is Austin real estate cooling? How long do homes stay on the market in Austin? I noticed that people are starting to search this. So what did I do? Look at that. I created an article. I know that people are searching this. Now, Google already picked up our article and it's now number 1. So I'm forecasting what people are actually searching for. So here, people also ask, all you have to do is create an article answering that question. Now you're number 1. You click there. It's got the nice little graph. It's got the FAQ. But that really simple to create these articles. Really simple. We've got the instructions right there on our internal drive. Any questions? Any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, complaints? Any questions? Going once, going twice. All right, good stuff, you all. It is 11:03. Thank you all so very much for joining. Super appreciate it. This is your Monday morning touch point to help you get started with the week. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I want to remind you that we've got our contract proficiency due Wednesday at 9 a.m. And that's going to be over Zoom. Friday, we have a team meeting. I am in town this whole week, thankfully, for the next, 2 weeks or so I'm in town, or 1 week. I don't know. Yeah, 1 week. This is a normal week. So we've got today, of course, Monday. We've got Wednesday over Zoom. And then we've got the Friday team meeting. That's going to be at the Austin Board of Realtors. Friday team meeting at the Austin Board of Realtors. One thing that we are considering is moving the team meeting to Wednesday, simply because I know that I'm always here on Wednesday, whereas Fridays this next year is going to be a little bit iffy, especially with the schedule, and I want to make sure that I'm super consistent with the team meeting. But next year, when I ship over the 14-year-old to boarding school, then I'll just have all the time in the world. But it's going to be a really, 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 really packed year for all of us, which is a great, great thing. So really glad to be back here to Austin. It was interesting being in LA this past weekend, but we had a great time and great time. If you're ever looking for an incredible breakfast place, you have to go to Uncle Bill's, Manhattan Beach. That was so delicious. Best omelet I've ever had in my life. Best omelet. Uncle Bill's in Manhattan Beach. We had a great time. We had a great time in LA. Such a beautiful place. My goodness, I love California. I love California. It's so beautiful. The weather's beautiful. The landscaping's beautiful. So absolutely beautiful. And I was nowhere close to the riots and all that. Even though the kiddo wanted to go to the riots, she's like, Dad, can we go drive by that? I'm like, are you insane? Like, no, we're not going to drive by the riots. No, I'm not going to do that. She's like, come on. It's like she's never seen a riot before. Where I used to live right across the IMF building in Washington, D.C., and man, we had riots remember back in the day when people used to protest the IMF, International Monetary Fund? They haven't protested the IMF in like decade and a half, but way back in the day, they used to protest the IMF all the time, the World Bank, the IMF. So we've seen our fair share of awful protests back in DC back in the day when the IMF was considered like the big bad organization. But no, I don't want to get involved with the riots. Don't want the rental car to get destroyed. So we've got Wednesday contract proficiency, broker Q&A, along with training over Zoom, and then the Friday team meeting in person, mentorship meeting at 9 a.m. at the Austin Board of Realtors. Thank y'all so much for joining our Monday morning touch point. Have an absolutely great, amazing rest of your day. And I am sure I will talk with you later. Thank y'all so much.